Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Monday, April 26th. So last week of the month of April, and a heavy week in terms of earnings and FOMC, which is on Wednesday. I think we've got a couple other things, events for this week, but really it's going to be a big, huge week of earnings. I think over 30% of the S&P reports this week, and then you got Powell coming up. So, if you look at today's theme and, some of the areas that outperformed, I mean, really nice for biotech to get moving today. Clean energy. I classify, if you kind of go up and down the list, and we'll go through some individual names, but, a lot of, high short interest names as well. So I don't know, and I know everybody always wants a little bit of a classification on the moves, but I would think that maybe there was some short covering. I don't think a lot of people want to be really heavy long and heavy short going into the Fed meeting, and maybe a little bit of and maybe a little bit of hedging before Wednesday. So that's just kind of, I think, just logical sense. But I don't know, maybe there's something else going on. So let's review some charts. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. The video is for education purposes only. If the video is blurry, it is just because YouTube has not finished rendering. Just give it a little bit of time. They do take extra time to render a 15-20 minute video. So, index performance for the day. The Qs outperformed, and then look at the small caps again, right? Up another 1%. They've been very strong over the last week. Bonds continue to be a non-factor, and the VIX actually ended up higher a little bit. That could be because we just have a lot of things going on this week. Tesla reported here after hours. I think they're down a little bit. They're kind of leaking a little bit. They're down at 719. I did a very small trade for Tesla. I think that they were looking to report a, what was it? The move that they were implying was about an 8% move. So the range that the market makers were implying was $680 to $800. And the way that I kind of price these things out is I look to see if there's any major resistance or support, and we get some version point of controls. So I was a little bit bullish with the iron condor that I chose. I sold. Right, so again, I a lot of times for earnings, I'm just looking to kind of fade the big moves, being that there's so much premium in some of these names before earnings, especially, and of course I'll look at previous results, right? And we haven't really seen like a 7 or 8% move from Tesla in a while, so it kind of made sense to me just to kind of collect some of that premium. So I sold a 707, 697. So you can see how I chose this right at the bottom of value. If you look on the chart to the right, there is a VPOC if we break that 708. So I'll have to watch that. And then I sold a call spread way up there, 795, 805. With that upside VPOC in mind. All right. So again, that's how I basically look to do some of these trades, and certainly I'll look to do more of them as earnings, as well as kind of play more directionally too for them. If we go to the just some of the moves today. Here's an example, right? When I talk about short interest, I know that I think GameStop did announce something after the close, but they were up. AMC is up 13%. MVIS, which is still going here after hours, up 47%. And if you just go down the line, there's another one too, SOS. It kind of gives you a little bit of deja vu from a few months ago where we had the short squeeze. But I'll tell you, that's kind of what I think is going on here for today, is a little bit of short covering. But there's really not that much shorts anymore, right? I think there was a report out by Bloomberg this weekend saying that the short interest is very tiny, in the overall market, comparatively to where we were, back in January and February. So that's kind of how I take things, and again, I don't need to, classify every single move. But I did like what I saw in biotech, right, today. So we're going to, like, if you stick to these 1 hour charts here just for a minute, you're going to see a lot of things just get over the trend, some areas that have been beaten up over the last few months, which have kind of been below the 200-day moving 200 period moving average on the 1 hour chart, now it kind of broke above a little bit. Like even like something like DraftKings, right? For the last like over a month, right? The price action has been below this 200 period moving average, right? So notice that price got above here and above the value area. So this is kind of how I would approach some of these trades, is to stay disciplined, right? I think a lot of folks learned lesson from that whole episode of Diamond Hands. Most of those guys got crushed for the most part. Again, without having discipline and not having a process and a trading plan, I think a lot of those folks had tough last couple of months. Something like this. Now, again, I didn't put on a trade here, but just to kind of review, if some of these names that are starting to kind of perk up a little bit, you could use a stop price for this one of like basically $58, $58.70 if you're really disciplined, or maybe $58, right? And see where this thing wants to go, right? 60, maybe 62 to the upside. And if you look at this in the daily chart, right, then you know that you got some resistance up here around 62, 63 as well, right? So that's kind of how I look to play some of these names. And certainly we've been seeing that, a couple names that I was watching today. Upstart had a nice day today. This was up 3.6%, but if you look at also Square got going, that still has to get over that 200 period moving average that kind of sank below there last week and has been stalling out here. So I did not take anything there either. PayPal as well acted a little bit better, in terms of this particular picture. I do think both PayPal and Square could see, maybe possibly a little bit of a run into earnings. They don't report for about a week and a half, right? So my trades, I was basically just doing a lot of managing of trades for today. FCX was a nice trade that we put on. Copper was very strong today. Let's just see where copper finished. Yeah, up 2.6%. So FCX was a name that I put on, and then I added to it last week. So you could take a look at this candle for the day, 6.9%, big move, and nice profitable trade. STLD was one name that I added today because I was stalking this thing. This thing finished right around the close of the day. So doing a lot of homework over the weekend and at nights, continues to pay off. Right, a lot of setups. I would have liked to go long this RTX hadn't it been for the name reporting earnings for tomorrow. It did look like it gave back some of the gains. I want to talk about that too with some areas of the market. So just to kind of go through, metals and mining were strong, clean energy. I like this ENPH. We talked about solar last week. ENPH did get going. Enphase Energy. This is a solar name. I think this, now is above value. It's above the, we talked about this one, I think, at Friday's video too. But I think this thing could get up to possibly 189. And again, doesn't have to get there in a straight line. Could do a back check and then go. A lot of people talking about Amazon today, and about how to handle it. Like anything else, right? A rumor is a rumor, right? Somebody floating a rumor out there that Amazon, could have a stock split or could announce it on earnings. So you could use that and say, hey, maybe this thing catches a little bit of momentum before the earnings report. Notice it closed right around the last few weeks high. So it's going to need to break this 3,420. So if you didn't trade it today, that's what I would be watching for tomorrow if you like that. But yeah, a few people asked me, well, what do you think about this rumor? I think it's a rumor. So, but sometimes rumors can create short-term momentum, right? So that's how I would look to trade it. And then, like a lot of things, it's buy the rumor, sell the news on earnings, right? So, who knows? We don't have any information. Nobody does, unless they're an insider at Amazon and know that they're going to do something like that. But I think there's always speculation in the market, and there's always a trade to do too, right? And that's how I would be playing it. The blockchain stocks were also hot today. We mentioned that MVIS The blockchain ETF was up 4.7%. That's good because I own it in the TTG Trend Portfolio. We also did a rebalance in the TTG Trend Portfolio. The semis did well today too. So again, look at the breadth on the bottom left of your screen. Right? I like to review this every. I like to review this every day as well. This is WEIB, right? So today we had not so much in the Dow. You had 12 advancers and 18 decliners. The S&P, you had 263 advancers and 233 decliners. Really, where the number was skewed was right in here in Nasdaq. 2,000 advancers and 890 decliners. So big performance there, and we really started to see that flip around in the middle. I think around the middle of last week. Breadth for about a week and a half prior to that. We were seeing really weak breadth for a while. But I think today and probably 2 or 3 days from midweek on last week, it had some nice strong breadth. So just looks a little bit different. Underperformers for the day. So just a couple, a couple other names. SE. This is a name that I got long last week. To me, kind of best in breed. I think this thing all the way up to 272, right? And again, I talked about how sometimes I don't have to time the perfect day in here or something. I bought SE here, right? And look at it go. So you don't have to time the exact perfect entry. I think there's so many traders that are fixated on making sure that they get the perfect entry. It's not always the case. There's a VPOC up here at 278. That's probably where I will take off the trade, or maybe leave the last piece of the trade on. But very nice. And for me, just kind of getting out of some things. ALB was a real nice trade too, that we put on towards the end of last week. Looks like this thing came in a little bit at 178. Again, it's a reminder to take profits. There was a little bit of a sell program that hit. Around like 3 o'clock today. This move, right? By the way, S&P could not break out of value for the day, right? So right here, right? I always get the questions in the trading room. Well, what happened? Was there news? Well, here's what the news probably is, right? Is that you have all these events this week. There's probably going to be a sell program or two, right? Because people are going to take off some exposure into the Fed meeting. That's the logical answer. I don't know if there was particular news on this 5-minute bar, but you are going to see sellers in the market. I always get the questions about, hey, why is this name up? Why is this name down? What's the news? Sometimes it's just a lot of buyers and sellers. Aggressive buyer, right? The old joke is more buyers than sellers, but it's aggressive buyers and sellers. This MVIS, for example, right? I always get, why is this name up? Well, it has a short interest of 20%, right? And when you see a whole bunch of call buying, they are looking for a gamma squeeze, right? And that's kind of what you're seeing in this name, right? Going from $18 to 28. So longs love these names when this happens, right? When everybody's buying calls and trying to get the shorts to cover, you can get an explosive move to the upside. But I didn't see any major news in this name. And even if it was, like let's say an upgrade or something like that, it's really the call buying, looking for a gamma squeeze combined with a short squeeze is really what kind of gets these names in motion. All right. But yeah, here's where I thought it was kind of interesting and just much more of a risk-on day. If you look at what's been going on with the utilities, right? Utilities were very strong for a good portion of for basically all of March and for half of April, and you could see that the momentum is kind of coming out of some of these names. Same thing with consumer staples, right, which was very hot as well for the same period. We're starting to see that tick down. I started to see this in some of the home building type names too. Look at Masco too. So what does this mean? So where was the news in this stuff? It's not. It's just it's rotation, right? So again, we're continuing to see that money rotating around in the market. Today, it seems like they got out of some of the low beta areas of the market and went into a little bit more of the high beta stuff, probably coupled with some short covering too. All right, so that's a few names. There's a lot more names that we reviewed. Here's all my trades for the day. I bailed on a couple things today. I had my last piece of IBM. I got into some ITW. I didn't want to see this, like if this group's going to get rotated out of in the short term, and I'm not saying that, but this thing reports earnings later this week. So if I can clear my plate of some trades, and get a little bit more into, increase my cash balance a little bit into all these events, hey, then I'm sitting in a pretty good spot, I think, right, in my trading account. Okay, guys, that's it for today's video. A couple other setups maybe that I was focused on. I didn't talk about Zillow. We talked about ENPH. This one too, I'll leave it here. CRSP, really nice looking setup here, but they report earnings. They report earnings tomorrow after the close. But I mentioned this chart a couple times. Really like this weekly chart. Another name that I mentioned over the weekend was Carvana. I think this thing looks pretty darn good. This will be on my list for tomorrow. Making a move above all these moving averages and above value. We'll see if this thing catches. There is a VPOC up here at 296. So I'll just kind of have to see how that goes with this, with the version point of control if that gets taken out. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.